Everyone, thank you so much for coming to the Riverside County Democratic Party Forum for CDP candidates. These are people who are vying to become part of your CDP leadership, and we're incredibly honored to have all of them here. My name is Keisha Rodriguez. I'm the chair of the Riverside County Democratic Party. We are super excited to have everyone here, yes, because we want to see these candidates, but also, and equally important, we want all of these candidates to do the incredible work that we do here in Riverside County. Our advocates are brave, are true, and work on an incredible range of issues that are critically important to us, and we appreciate them all coming and learning and seeing who we have working here. I would be remiss if I didn't do one important thing, because our mission first and foremost is to elect Democrats. As we are taking on the Riverside City Council elections, as we prepare to take over the Board of Supervisors and just take on every possible seat we can and bring it into the hands of Democrats who are part of our mission, we want to make sure that everyone has an opportunity to participate with us. And one important way to do that is through participating in our major programs. So very quickly, before I get to the program, I'm going to share with you the unveiling of our Victory 2022 program. We are looking for people to, yes, do the groundwork and get in there and fight with us.
Join the meeting.
We are also looking for people who are willing to help give even $5, $8, $100, whatever you can towards helping to elect Democrats around Riverside County and around the state of California. So we'll be providing more information on our website if you're watching out there on Facebook Live or on YouTube. And we'll be providing more information in the chat if you're joining us on Zoom. Thank you very much. We'll get to the next portion of the program in just a minute, but join us. It takes all of us in order to be able to elect Democrats in Riverside County. And we sincerely and wholeheartedly appreciate every single one of you and the work that you're doing. So the first part of the program, I'm going to explain for you very briefly. We will be having sections starting with the controller's race, where we will be having each of our candidates, they will be able to provide a statement, answer some questions, and they'll be able to really engage and provide information that is important to all of us. Everyone will be held to a specific timeline. For some of these races, it will be a 1-minute timeline, and for the chair and vice chair races, it will be a 2-minute timeline, so that we can provide the most information. In the case of one specific race, the first one we have up, one of our candidates has been unable to attend. So she sent an incredible speaker on her behalf. It was completely unavoidable conflict. So she expresses her regards, and we look forward to seeing April there at our next possible opportunity. For the first section of questions, I'm going to go to the president of the Democrats of Southwest Riverside County, Fran Anderson, to introduce the candidates for chair or for controller. Fran, please take it away.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I will ask a series of questions that you will each have 1 minute to answer. Please watch your end time and be prepared to stop at the minute mark. The first question is, why are you running, and why do you believe you are qualified to be the controller of the California Democratic Party? Ms. Alcala, please unmute yourself and begin.
Can you hear me now?
We can hear you, Ms. Alcala.
Hello?
We can hear you, Ms. Alcala.
Yes.
I'm sorry, can you hear me? Hello?
Yes, we can hear you.
Hello?
Yes, we can hear you.
I apologize, I'm sorry. Controller, because I believe strongly that, I think that is one of the essentials that, as I said, I believe strongly that we need accountability. Thank you. I believe strongly that we need accountability and transparency in our party. I think that more people into the Democratic Party, delegates to work together strongly. we, as a party, took a pledge not to accept oil and pharmaceutical money. And I think it's really important for us to set the example to be incumbent on us to let our central committees and our members know that the money that we take in is from legitimate sources for any of the resolutions that we adopted as an Latino caucus, and current one of the things that I'm doing done everywhere that need, folks need to be
We are having technical
and I
difficulties.
believe there are other ways. So bring, funding to our nation of our grassroots activists. Alternate monies are things we reform in these. I'm so sorry. Have you heard what I said? Can you hear me?
Your feed is cutting in and out. We heard pieces here and there.
Hey, Ms. Alcala, I suggest that you call back just
I'm
with your
sorry.
phone. Ms. Alcala, we suggest.
Maybe
All right, Ms. Alcala, I suggest you call back just with your phone without the video feed because
Yes.
we cannot understand you. So please do that now.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, I'll do that.
Okay, while she's doing that, we'll ask the same question to Mr. Mann for, go ahead and unmute yourself and begin, Mr. Mann. Thank you. Make sure you're unmuted. We can't hear you. Yeah, we're having trouble. We're not hearing you. There you go. I hear something. No, still not.
How's that?
There you go.
Wonderful. Thank you, everybody. Thank you, Chair Rodriguez, members of the Riverside County Democratic Party, for allowing me to be here on behalf of April Verrett, who's running for controller. I believe the question is, why is April running for controller, and what experience does she bring with her? I think the answer is pretty clear. She wants to help to support the work of the party and really help to ensure that we are investing in the areas that we need to invest to meet the goals and the vision that we all share. April brings a lot of experience with her. She looks forward to putting that to work on behalf of the party by being controller. She right now, if you're not familiar with April, she runs the largest local in the state, where she manages the resource for 400,000 plus members. In addition, she has helped in numerous campaigns throughout California at both the local and the state levels. She has been involved as a party delegate appointed by Senator Padilla, and co-chaired the ad hoc committee on how best to raise funds for the party. And lastly, but certainly not least, April will bring with her life experience as a Black woman, a CDP perspective that's been missing and desperately, I think, needed. So she really looks forward to this opportunity.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Is Ms. Barrett or Ms. Alcala back on the line?
Fran, she is not. Why don't you go ahead and ask the questions from Mr. Mann, and we will ask the same questions from Ms. Alcala when she's able to join us.
Thank you, Aggie. Yes, we'll do that. Okay, Mr. Mann, the next question is, there's a lot of talk in our party about bad money and good money. In your opinion, or in April's opinion, what are those categories, and how does the party raise enough right money to be effective?
Great, thank you for that. One thing that April is really focused on is making sure that we are really attracting clean money, making sure that we are like the days to pay to play are over, and that as controller, she will work on making sure that we are focused on the smaller contributions of clean money that support the goals of the organization. Again, so that the CDP isn't beholden to any special interests, but to, again, the vision and the goals.
Thank you. Next question is, the CDP's financials are available to view in FEC and FPPC reports online. Should there be more reporting to the delegates? And if yes, what? If no, why not?
The best way I can answer that is that April does believe in full transparency. She doesn't believe that certain things should be shared and certain things shouldn't be shared, but rather that there's full transparency among the members and that they expect it. And that's exactly how she runs the organization, the local that she's president of, and would put those same principles to work for the CDP. Again, full transparency.
Thank you. The last regular question is, what is the function of the controller in relation to county committees?
I would say, yeah. I think the function of the controller in relationship to the county committees is really to be supportive, helping to support the county committees to be successful. One area that April is very focused on is making sure that the county committees are getting the resources necessary to continue to build strength. We all know that the local chapters are so essential. Without the local chapters, we don't have a CDP. So making sure that they have the resources to be effective at the local level, but also to groom leadership for the future is really important.
Norma Alcala joined the meeting.
Okay, if Ms. Alcala is back on, let's ask her the questions and then we'll finish with the closing statements from both.
Great. Thanks, Francis.
Thank you. Ms. Alcala, are you there? Unmute yourself. For a second. Ms. Alcala? I heard her being admitted. Ms. Alcala, are you there? Okay, let's go ahead with the closing statement for April Verrett. Mr. Mann, thank you for taking time to be with us today. And can you give us about a 30-second closing statement? No, not yet. Can't hear you.
There we go. Hi, all right. Yeah, actually, I have a written statement that April wanted me to share with all of you. So I'll just read that from her. And she says, we have a lot to be proud of as a party, from helping to elect Joe Biden and Kamala Harris to the White House to fighting for progressive policies to help improve lives. And with that, we have a lot of work ahead of us to get the party and our state where it needs to be. I'm confident that by working together, we will be able to not only achieve, but exceed what is possible. Thank you again for this opportunity, and I hope I'm able to earn your vote at the 2021 State Democratic Convention.
Thank you, Mr. Mann.
Thank you.
Ms. Alcala, are you there?
I don't believe she is. Maya, do you see Miss Alcala in the room?
I believe she is the 916 number and she has just unmuted herself.
Very good. Thank you.
Ms. Alcala, are you back with us? Unmute yourself.
And she's remuted herself.
Oh, unmute yourself, Ms. Alcala.
She's still on mute.
You're still on mute, Ms. Alcala.
There we go.
Okay.
Go ahead, Fran.
They say you're not on mute. Are you there? Not getting.
What is it to unmute on the phone? #6 *6 or something
She's
like that?
unmuted now. She is unmuted now. Go ahead, Fran.
Ms. Alcala, I'm going to ask you the first question again. Why are you running and why do you believe you're qualified to be the controller of the California Democratic Party? You have 1 minute.
Ms. Alcala, are you able to hear us?
We cannot hear you, Ms. Alcala.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yes.
Hello?
Yes, now we can hear you.
Oh my gosh. Okay, thank you so much. I apologize. I bought this new phone yesterday because I broke my old phone, so I'm still having some issues.
Fran will repeat.
Can you hear me?
Yes, I'm going to
Thank
repeat. I'm going to repeat the question. 1 minute.
Thank you.
Why are you running, and why do you believe you're qualified to be the controller of the California Democratic Party?
Thank you. So I'm running because I believe transparency and accountability are really essential responsibilities for a controller. You know, our party took a pledge not to accept dark money. And I think it's really important that we lead by example. There are other ways that we can, you know, fundraise and get good Democrats elected. Most importantly, I think when we're doing fundraising, we're actually, you know, getting to the very grassroots that we need to accomplish these things. It's really important to have individuals feel that they have buy-in with our party. We also increase our numbers that way. When people feel included in something and part of something, they are more likely to contribute. We have great contributors out there, and I think it's incumbent for us to really reach out and ask them, you know, to dig a little deeper into their pockets. Now, I've been with the party as an ADEM since 2012. I am serving as vice chair of our Chicano Latino caucus. And in my own Yolo County Democratic Central Committee, I have served as fundraising chair. And we had very successful fundraisers, not just in terms of money, but in terms of people wanting to become much more active in the Democratic Party. And I think this is what we need. We need people who are going to excite, people who are going to involve and be inclusive. I believe I can accomplish that with my track record from the past. Now, just to let you know, I served also for our party on the Voter Services Committee. I was recently reelected again to the ADEMS, and I'm a current city council member for the city of West Sacramento.
Alcala, your time is up.
Thank you.
The next question is, I think you may have answered it already. There's a lot of talk in our party about bad money and good money. In your opinion, what are those categories, and how does the party raise enough right money to be effective?
You know, I'm glad you asked that, because we've been having a lot of conversations, and I think that's really important for delegates to have conversations and to have buy-in, as I said, but not just our delegates. I think it's incumbent on us to really get out there, you know, with our clubs and with fellow Democrats who may have some really great ideas. The dark money I'm talking about, we all know it's tobacco, it's oil, and it's the pharmaceuticals. We should not be accepting that. We resolved in a resolution not to accept any of that money. And I believe in one of our last conventions, it may have been an e-board, we did accept money from a faction of the tobacco industry. And that, you know, to many of our delegates was betrayal of our Democratic Party values. There are other ways to make it. You know, I worked really hard, just to let you know, on the Disclose Act. It was really important that we know where this money's coming from. Well, we've had to put our money where our mouth is, and I think that's what people expect us to do. I think one of the most important things when we're doing fundraising, as I said, is ask people to dig a little deeper, those that have the financial means. But fundraising has to go beyond that. You know, I think the party can do some really proactive things. One of the things that they can do is they can definitely coordinate their campaigns a little better to be much more engaging. And one of the things I'm talking, oh, I'm sorry. I didn't know we were timed. I'm sorry. I missed all that.
Yeah, you have a minute on each question.
Okay, I apologize.
It's fine. The CDP's financials are available to view in FEC and FPPC reports online. Should there be more reporting to the delegates? If yes, what? If no, why not?
I think we should very much report, at least on a monthly basis, to our central committee so they can disseminate the information and get that out there. I think it would be great if the party also had a section, you know, on our constant contacts that the party sends out, so that people feel that they know exactly what is going on within the party. One of the criticisms of the party, and I know we can resolve this, is to be much more knowledgeable of what our party is doing. And as I talked about greater buy-in, people want to be able to also contribute their ideas and to have people respond back to them. This is one of the things that I know it's been very successful. I've been also a school board member, and as a city council member, I'm very well known for getting back to individuals. If they feel their leadership can't talk to them, you know, just like a regular person, that is going to cause disenfranchisement within the party.
Thank you. And the last regular question is, what is the function of the controller in relation to the county committees?
Well, that's something we touched upon. I think it's really important for the controller to keep a very close relationship with our central committees. They do a lot of fundraising. A lot of that money, you know, is filtered in through the party. So I think these conversations, what I would like to see is to have our central committee heads have monthly meetings with the controller so that we can provide them with information. Controller also can get some great ideas, as can other central committees, in terms of fundraising. But we should definitely have more meetings, I think, just within the party as well. And I think it's one of the criticisms that I've heard, and as I said, the result that many of these heads of central committees have talked about is definitely having more information, more timely information given to them.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
And thanks for taking your time to be with us today. Please take 30 seconds for a closing statement.
Okay. Well, I want to thank everyone, first of all, for allowing me to speak. I think one of the most important things that we can do, not just as controller, but as an executive board, is to make ourselves much more accessible to the total delegation of Democrats who work so hard for our party. So I believe, and I have a pretty good track record of being very inclusive in all my conversations to make myself very accessible to everyone. And that is what I think I can bring to the party. I believe it's really important also that we mentor many of our delegates. I myself believe that our positions on executive board should have limited terms. I think it's important in order to develop more leadership. And I'm hoping that everyone will consider voting for me for controller. I have been with this party working very hard. I served on the voter services. I have registered over 11,000 high school students, and that was all done through grassroots efforts. I am very proud to serve. If I'm elected, I will continue to have an open door policy. And if not, I'll continue to have that open door policy because I believe it's really important for all of us to become one cohesive party. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next, we have the candidates running for CDP Secretary. They are Diana Love and Melahat Rafai. And to ask the questions, we are joined by the president of the Past Democratic Club, Sylvia Carrillo. Take it away, Sylvia.
Thank you, Madam Vice Chair. Good afternoon. I will ask each of you to please tell us why you are running and to tell us why you are qualified to be the Secretary of the California Democratic Party. You each have 1 minute to answer. Ms. Love, please unmute yourself first and begin.
1 second. One of the candidates will be in just a second, and Diana Love is joining right now also.
Sylvia, you'll
Okay.
repeat
I
the
think
question.
we're back.
Wonderful. Okay, so it sounds like both Diana Love and Melahat Rafai are in the room, so I will re-ask the question. I will ask each of you to please tell us why you are running and to tell us why you are qualified to be the Secretary of the California Democratic Party. You each have 1 minute to answer. Ms. Love, please unmute yourself first and begin.
Ms. Love, you need to unmute yourself.
I
There
believe,
you go. You are
okay.
now.
Thank you and good afternoon, Riverside County members. Thank you for inviting me. The reason that I am running is to strengthen the relationship between constituents, clubs, and central committees in relationship to the state party, and to do that with among all 58 counties. That is the main reason I am running. The qualifications that I bring to the secretary position, past and present, are: I am the former Assembly District 36 for the Los Angeles County Democratic Party secretary. I am also the former court-appointed special advocate, which is called CASA, which you gather information from children, evaluate the facts, and write a court report. I am also a former field representative for the California State Assembly. In that role, I did constituent services, interviewing individuals, working with the State Department, and writing reports. I am also a former executive director, and I am a current executive director for a nonprofit that gathers information and writes reports, seeks grants, and does other manageable jobs. I also do a lot of authoring and writing proposals and for different organizations. So those are some of the things that qualify me for the position. Thank you for the opportunity to speak.
Thank you, Ms. Rafi'i. Ms. Rafi'i, you also have 1 minute to speak. Please unmute yourself next and begin.
There we go. Thank you so much for the opportunity to speak with you. I'm here with John, being very patient with Mommy while Mommy campaigns. I think being a single mom qualifies me to do a whole bunch of stuff, but let's talk specifically about the officer's race. I am a former executive director of a red county right next door to you in Orange. And before we were this blue tidal wave, we were redder than Aggies highlights sometimes, I guess. Just red as can be. And we worked really hard. We know how the grassroots committee has to do this. When I was ED, we registered 75,000 Democrats. We got more clubs started, our council of clubs going. I employed the 34 city strategy, like Howard Dean had the 50 state strategy. What I'd like to do as your secretary is take the experience I've had for over 20 years, running campaigns where it's not been easy, getting women of color, members of the LGBTQ community, members of the disability community elected. That's something that I've done in every corner of this region, and I've done it without a lot of help from the establishment. If I can do it in Orange County, we can do it in every part of the state, including Riverside County, where, by the way, I went to junior high school in Moreno Valley. Go Sunny Meat Stallions. But my particular experience, I think it's my energy. I've won elections. I want to be able to do that in every part of the state. I think the state party should be the #1 training ground.
Your time is up.
Sorry, thanks.
Thank you. Next question. What exactly is the job of CDP secretary, and how will you help the RCDP when elected? You each have 1 minute to answer. Ms. Love, please unmute yourself first.
Okay, thank you for the question. The job of the secretary is to disseminate all the information that comes in, take the minutes, disseminate that information out, take in all the challenges that come in and disperse them to the various committees, the CRC, the elections committee, and other places that people have sent information to, and to respond back in a timely manner and to ask questions where needed. And the second part of the question was again?
What exactly is the job of CDP secretary, and how will you help the RCDP when elected?
Well, some of the things I want to do is if I'm elected, is to promote more of a shared governance, to expand the role of the secretary. One of the things I would like to see is the workshops and trainings that go on across the 58 counties. And I would like to formulate a form that we do. Some of the times when we send in information and it comes in the mail and it takes a long period of times and there's a lot of mishaps, to cut down the problems that we have. When we send out information that comes from the state party, they have our email addresses. So why not formulate the form so that it can be returned in that fashion, which will cut down the problems and issues, and it will be more timely. That's just one of the things I'd like to do.
Thank you, Ms. Love.
Thank you, Ms. Love. Ms. Rafi, please unmute yourself next. You also have 1 minute.
Fine, thank you so much. So, the role, it's interesting. We talk about the roles of officers because they're not very well defined. The benefit to that, you can make the job what you want it to be. Traditionally, in roles like the secretary, like you have in your organization, they're communicating with your members and so on and so forth. That's technically the job, but we have staff for that at the CDP. What I like to do with this position is be part of the leadership team that does more than just standard training. We have to build the bench deep, beyond just candidates. In 4 to 6 years, 60% of our legislators will be termed out. We need candidates, but what we need more are activists and campaign managers and finance directors and volunteer coordinators and PDI specialists. And that's something the party should be doing. We should be training that bench because every one of these candidates needs that infrastructure. Not everyone's going to run for office. God bless all of you that do. But those of us who want to work behind the scenes need that training too. I would have killed to have some sort of training before I ran my first campaign in 2006. And now I'm trying to help others learn what I've learned, avoid the mistakes that I've made so that we can win more effectively.
Next question, as CDP secretary, what will you do to change or improve the CDP? You each have 1 minute. Ms. Love, please unmute yourself first and begin.
Oh, thank you. One of the things I would like to do to improve is that we must have equal representation. The state party stands for diversity. It is important that we do that across the board with all different types of diversity, and we should have equitable. We need to be have equitable representation as well. And we have to bring in more new leaders, more new generational leaders. We must listen to them and find out what it is what their ideas are about and try to implement all of that across the state party. That is one of our strengths that we have, and that is listening and being accessible to everyone. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Rafi'i, you're next for 1 minute. Please unmute yourself and begin now.
I stayed on mute to avoid that catastrophe, but I forgot the question. Sorry.
Oh, no worries. As CDP secretary, what will you do to change or improve the CDP?
Well, I agree with Diana that we need to have equitable diversity. If I were to be elected, I'd be the first refugee to ever be an officer in our state party. I'd be the first person from Orange County since the 1970s. But I think more transparency. As I'm going through this process as a 20-year incumbent of our party, I'm having a hard time finding county central committee contact information. I'm realizing that I've got old information. And at a minimum, we should be able to go to one location to get updated contact information for all the counties in the state. I think that transparency in the way of just being open with communication. My therapist always tells me, and I tell my ex-husbands this, if you don't talk to me, the voices in my head fill in the blanks, and it's never good for you. So I like to over communicate, and that's, those of you who've known me know that I pick up my phone calls, I respond to my texts, and I want to bring every question to a resolution if I have the answer or not. So that's what you'll see with me, someone who's accessible and will be your leader on that board.
Thank you. Next question. When you hear delegates speak of transparency in the party, what does that mean to you, and what do you think should be done about it? You both have 1 minute to answer. Ms. Love, please unmute yourself and begin.
Thank you. To me, transparency means that you get access to information as quickly as possible. We should be able to find the information or lead the person to where they can get that information from. We shouldn't be hiding anything. We should make it accessible as to how we acquire that information and show the person that. And I do agree that we also need to have one location to be able to accessibly have information. And that's part of the training and being transparent and again, showing where we got it from. We need to stabilize our systems. We need to stabilize our security systems for transparency so people know where it came from and give them links and a path and guidance. Thank you.
I think transparency means not having to be asked for the information. So it's about being proactively transparent. whether it's if we're looking for a new web developer, putting the bids out like you would in any sort of public entity so that folks can see who's participating in it. You know, generally, I'll tell you as a DNC member, the state party does it a lot better than the national party. I find things out on Twitter before I find it out from the DNC. So we are doing it better in California than most places, but we can still improve on that. I know there's a lot of folks who kind of feel like they're left out of what's going on. We also have people that live in the rural parts of the state who don't have access to internet and Facebook and everything else. And I think we have folks in our party who are still digitally challenged, and we have to be mindful of that. And we also have people who don't have access to the internet. I mean, we talk about that now in this pandemic as a parent who has access to internet. My kid can go to school either personally or virtually, but a lot of the folks that we as Democrats say we want to fight for, those essential workers, their kids are sitting in parking lots at McDonald's or Taco Bell trying to access the internet. Like, if, you know, for me, that's, to me, transparency is making sure you have the information before you have it, but really fighting for our party's values and not being afraid of having these difficult conversations.
Thank you for those answers. You each now have 30 seconds for your closing statements. Ms. Love, please begin.
Well, again, thank you, Riverside County Central Committee, for inviting me to come to participate in the forum. And I know that I can help improve the accessibility, the transparency, and to work well with the leadership across the board and across the team based on my history and my public service and my volunteerism. I have the means and the job qualifications and from past experiences to assist in transparency and to bring in the new generation. And I'm looking forward to working with everyone across all 58 counties, rural, based on all the caucuses that I'm a member of. I have valuable information that we can strengthen our relationships and we can do some improvement and do some new and bold things. We have a lot of work to do, and I would like to see the state party lead the way in doing that. So thank you again for inviting me.
Thank you, Ms. Ruffy. You also have 30 seconds for your closing statements now.
Thank you. And Sylvia, you got my name right. I mean, I can't even pronounce Rafi the way that it's written. I want to thank you all for the opportunity. I mentioned I did live in Riverside County. We moved from Northern California to Southern California, and I went to junior high in Moreno Valley. For those of you who know my story, my family came to the US in 1983. I was 5.5. My sister was 3, my brother was 1. They had $500 and didn't know anybody. My dad spoke English because he had been trained by the American pilots to fly in the Iranian Air Force. And living that experience of growing up in poverty, that experience of having parents who are immigrants, that experience of my son being the first person in my family born in America drives what I do, drives what I want to be. I was not supposed to be in politics. My parents, the last thing that they wanted me to do was get into politics. I had 4 choices growing up: doctor, lawyer, engineer, failure, in that order. And until my parents met Barack Obama, they didn't really understand what I did. But I believe in this. I fight for this. I'm lucky enough to be able to make a living doing what I love. I want to take this passion, all of the knowledge that I've gained the past 20 years, and help everybody else in every corner of the state continue to get local people elected, get our bench deeply filled, and continue working with all of you. I'm going to be calling you. You're going to be hearing from me. Pick up that 949 number when it comes, and I hope to connect with you before the voting and earn all of your votes. Thanks so much.
Thank you both for taking the time to join us today, and we wish you both good luck in your campaign.
Thank you, and I'll put my information in the chat.
Thank you very much, Sylvia. And now I would like to welcome the candidates for CDP male vice chair. They are Daraka Larimore Hall and David Campos. To pose questions to these candidates, we are joined by the president of the Temecula Valley Democrats, Terry Connolly. Terry, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Chair Tiza. So welcome, Mr. Larimore Hall. You're finishing your 2nd term as CDP male vice chair. What are your accomplishments and why are you running for a 3rd term? You have 1 minute. Please unmute yourself.
So I'm actually running for my 2nd term as vice chair. I was elected vice chair 4 years ago with over 85% of the vote. But before that, I served as secretary and as party secretary. And I'm running for a 2nd term as vice chair because I want to continue to be the voice in the room that's willing to make the good trouble to force real change, both inside the party and in California politics in general. I've put in the work as a county party activist, as a rank and file trade union activist, and as a statewide leader now in 2 different positions. And all of that has given me the conclusion, as it had me come to the conclusion that we really need deep structural change in this party. We need to prioritize making that structural change, and we need to stop kicking the can down the road. So yeah, I'm running for re-election just for the first time. Thanks.
Great, thank you. Welcome, Mr. Campos. You're a first-time candidate. You also have a minute to tell us why you're running for male vice chair. Please unmute yourself and begin.
Thank you very much. Thank you for the opportunity and for what you do. I think that my personal experience as a formerly undocumented person is the reason why I'm involved in democratic politics. The Democratic Party has always been the party of people like me, of not only undocumented, but anyone who feels disenfranchised. That's why I got involved in democratic politics. And as chair of the San Francisco Democratic Party, I have shown that the Democratic Party can be used as an instrument of change. And that's really what I'm running about. This campaign for me is about changing the way the Democratic Party interacts with central committees. As a chair of a central committee, I often have felt that we are on our own in many respects. And I want to dedicate my tenure as the second vice chair to supporting central committees. I am proud to be a progressive Democrat who can speak and talk about progressive change, but it's not enough to talk about good trouble. You actually have to deliver on that. And that's what I want to do. I want to be able to deliver on the changes that are needed for the party, not just structurally, but also pushing
Campos, your time is
progressive
up.
policies.
Terry, before you go on, Mr. Campos, you might be sitting a little close to your mic because you are dropping in and out a little.
Okay, my apologies.
No, thank you, Terry. I'm sorry to have interrupted.
No problem at all, Aggie. Thank you both. So this question is for both of you. There are delegates who feel our party's broken and want to have a voice in more decisions. How do you answer them, and what's your view on the health of our party? Mr. Larimore Hall first. You have 2 minutes.
So 3 of the things that I've tried to do since being a state party officer have all been about strengthening the relationship between the county parties, which is what I come out of, the 10-year county party chair, and the state party. Not just in terms of communication and coordination, but also that the work that the county parties are charged with doing, specifically winning political power for progressives at the county level, should be part of the CDP's priorities, that we put actual resources into. As secretary, I did the first ever study of who our elected officials are at the local level to start the conversation about how we can actually match who we're getting into office with who the base of our party is. When I asked for resources to go to the next level of that resource and start putting strategic analysis behind it, I was told there was no money for that. When I became vice chair, one of the things that I really wanted to take responsibility for was helping to lead a real conversation about campaign finance reform, about how the party spends money, but also how the most of the money in politics is spent, which is directly to our campaigns, the candidates' campaigns. We started that process, but then when we changed chairs, the focus of that process was completely changed to just the money that the party takes in. So what I'm here to say is that as an officer, I have been working to actually push the envelope with concrete proposals about how we can build real political power between the county and the statewide level. But what I've learned is there's only one position in this party that makes any decisions about where resources go, and that's the chair. And until we democratize the decision-making power in the party, people can be running for these positions with great, wonderful ideas, and everything I've heard from all these candidates is all great and we should do it. But we've got to do the tough work of actually spreading power in this party to make sure that it can actually happen.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Campos. Same question.
Thank you very much. Let me say that I do believe that we need to democratize the state party more. I support that. But I actually think that we have to go beyond that. I think that we have to change the relationship between the state party and the local parties. As a chair of San Francisco, I reached out to the state party under Chair Bauman to work with us to run a phone bank targeting swing districts in Central California, Southern California. The state party didn't do anything. They didn't respond to that. So I just did it on my own, working with Speaker Pelosi. And I think that there are many examples of that. And we were able to make, more than 3 million calls in 2018. And that's the kind of know-how that I bring. And what I would say to people is I'm running to give people a choice for a different way of engaging and interacting with central committees. It's not just about talking about it for me. I was a supervisor in San Francisco where I passed some of the most difficult progressive legislation in that city for universal health care, for free public transportation, for so many other things. I know how to get things done when things are challenging. And I think that that experience is something that is needed right now for this moment in the history of the party. And as a central committee chair, I know firsthand what is needed. And I hope that you give me the opportunity to work more closely with you in this role if I'm elected.
Thank you very much, both of you. This is another question for both candidates also. What are your views on the CDP funding coordinated campaigns with county committees? Please address issues of cost, manpower, and outcomes, and who's responsible for wins and losses. You have 2 minutes. Mr. Larimore Hall, please first unmute yourself.
I don't think I'm muted, but in terms of who's responsible, I think all of you that are active in the county level know that it's the county central committees that are like never credited with the wins, but always blamed for losses. And I think, again, as somebody who led a county central committee and led from being a purple county to being a blue county over the 10 years that I was involved, it really has to be a question of the county party setting the agenda. And so to me, what that means is instead of we talk with the speaker and the pro tem and the D-trip and come up with what the coordinated campaign is and what the priorities are, then we call the central committees and say, hey, how can you help us do that? That it should be the exact opposite. We should be building our political priorities from the ground up, from our central committees up. Now that means having some difficult conversations about the money with the real power brokers and funding sources. And we know that those are our caucuses in the legislature. Those are our friends and allies in the labor movement, et cetera. And we need a renegotiation of what has been the long-standing status quo, which is to think of central committees as a pass-through really for money that's really controlled by other people. One of the things, again, the trouble that I've been trying to make is I was the only officer who was willing to stand up for the CDP's position to stop the legislature from voting their caucuses the ability to do unlimited fundraising of corporate money around our own strictures on corporate money. It was the CDP's position, but none of the other officers were willing to go and actually be on the record with the legislature. And we gotta have those tough conversations. We have to be willing to have those tough conversations. And I'm asking for your support to continue to be the person in the room that will have them.
Thank you very much. Mr. Campos, same question, please.
Well, listen, I think that with the Supreme Court that we have, money in politics is a big problem. And I do think that we as Democrats have to set an example. And I am proud that in San Francisco, and I raised more than $1 million on a given year in San Francisco. And I do it without taking money from a lot of bad players, whether it's the oil industry, whether it's tobacco, and quite frankly, a number of corporate entities that are not responsible in San Francisco. I've demonstrated an ability to do that. I think that we have to push the party to make sure that we responsibly raise money. I think that there is a way to do it in a way that is ethical and based on our principles. What I would say, though, is that we have to change this culture. And I think that we need to empower the central committees more. And quite frankly, we need to use the party as a tool to get the changes we need at the policy level. One of the things that I'm the proudest of in San Francisco is that we as a party are always advocating for change legislatively with the powers that be in City Hall. We are the ones that push reform, ethics reform, whether it's housing for low-income people, whether it's legal representation for tenants. We are, as a party, are the first place where those issues are brought up. That's how the state party should be. It should be driving the agenda on so many different levels. And in San Francisco, because of that power, that advocacy, we have been successful in making change around ethics and money in politics in San Francisco, and around a number of issues where we have gone against big money. And because of the grassroots activism, we were successful. That's what I want to bring to the table. And I can tell you, having worked in San Francisco politics, that I understand that while San Francisco is unique, that the same thing can be said of every county. Every county is unique. What I am committing
Mr.
to
Campos,
you
your time is up,
is
sir.
to listen to what you have to say and work with you.
Thank you both very much again. So the last regular question, this will be both of you, but Mr. Campos is going to go first. You're going to have 2 minutes each. What do you see the role of the male vice chair is in the CDP currently? What, if any, changes would you bring to the role? And how would you work with the incoming chair to make our party better, stronger, and more effective? And also, finally, how would your role change if the chair was a male or a female? Mr. Campos, you're first, and you have 2 minutes each.
Well, the bylaws are not very clear about the role, which is why I think that we have to make, I am committed to making it what I believe. And in this case, I believe that the role should focus on the central committees, and that's going to be my priority. With respect to Chair Hicks, I actually did not support Chair Hicks. I supported Kimberly Ellis and went strongly for her. I campaigned. When Chair Hicks was elected, he reached out to me, and we have been able to work together. And so I am supporting him because of that. But as he also understands, as much as I may support him, I am an independent person, and I'm not afraid to push the envelope. I'm proud to be a Bernie Sanders Democrat, someone who is as progressive as anyone. But I think that the reason why I have support from people who don't necessarily agree with me on all of these issues is because I have demonstrated an ability to work with people from all sides of the political spectrum. And that, I think, is what is needed right now, because as much as we may have differences of opinion, other Democrats are not the enemy. We have larger issues that we have to come together. We have right now at the federal level a Senate with Republicans essentially finding the then President Donald Trump not guilty of actually treason and all the horrible things that he did. That's why it's important for us, given this time in the history of this country, in the history of our country and of our party, that we come together. And that's what I bring, a progressive who is able to work with people. We can agree without being disagreeable. And at the end of the day, is delivering success for Democrats on the ground. I have done that. I have done it. And I want to work with you to make it happen throughout the entire state of California. Thank you very much.
Mr. Larimore Hall. And Mr. Campos, I just want to say before your closing statement, if you can move your speaker a little bit away, you're cutting out just a little bit to us. So just for the final statement. Sorry about that, Mr. Larimore Hall.
Thank you. I love this question. And it's going to be hard to keep to just 2 minutes on it. I could nerd out a lot. The role of the vice chairs is like one sentence: to help the chair do what the chair wants to do. And except for a different gender vice chair getting a seat on the DNC, that's really it. I think that should change, and that's why a lot of people said yes, we should change the structure. But I actually made proposals for that are currently before the Rules Committee that be happy to share with anyone. And my vision, and I'm open to other visions, but my vision for the vice chairs is to give them specific political portfolios, including, yes, having one of them be responsible for working directly with and developing central committees. But there's also coalition work, anti-racist work, environmental work, a whole range of lobbying, a whole range of tasks that the party needs to be doing, and we need to give our vice chairs specific responsibilities so they can be held accountable for whether they're doing a good job. It's really simple, and it's kind of outrageous that we haven't tackled this earlier. In terms of the role of gender, as I said, there's a very specific mechanism that would be different. But I also think that we need to be, that if I was a vice chair to a woman leader, that there's really, really important things that would need to happen around making sure that we are broadcasting and reinforcing the voice of that chair. We haven't had a female chair in a really long time. And I think it would be incumbent on all of us to be putting real weight behind that in California politics. I've worked as an officer with 4 party chairs. Chairs I supported, chairs I didn't support, chairs who were elected, a chair who wasn't elected. And my number one takeaway from all of that is the thing they all had in common is that they were human beings. So they were imperfect. So every single one of them made mistakes. And for me to be an effective vice chair with somebody as chair, I need a portfolio. I need a set of directions. I need some structure. So I know how to both be supportive and to use my own voice with my own mandate. I haven't had that. Nobody's had that because the structure is so unclear and broken. So I don't mean to be a broken record on that, but it really is. It's 20 years now that I've been active in the party. I wrote my PhD dissertation on the California Democratic Party historically.
Mr.
A lot of thinking
Larimore,
about
your
this.
time is up, sir.
We got to change. Thanks.
Thank you very much. Thank you both for your answers. We'd like each one of you to take 1 minute for a closing statement. And Mr. Larimore Hall, you're going to be first this time. Thanks.
Okay. So I want to hit this issue in my closing statement of advocacy, something that my friend David said, and it's so important because the reason that people show up and give up time with their families and their friends to be here is not for the politicians and it's not for the titles. It's to move an agenda. It's to advocate for making our country better, our state better. We don't do that enough as an organization. And in fact, we were barred from doing it as an organization, from lobbying by our own bylaws. I worked with activists to change the bylaws to allow us to actually do real advocacy in Sacramento for better laws. Now, guess what? We had to put in there, because of pressure, that the chair would still make the decision on whether we did it on any issue and whether we spent money on it. And so that's been there as a possibility for us to do, but only if one person says that we can. We got to change that. We will not be the advocacy organization that everyone here wants us to be until we're a small d Democratic organization. And then we can fight
Mr.
about the real
Larimore Hall,
politics.
your time is up, sir.
Thank you very much. Mr. Campos, please.
Thank you very much for the opportunity to speak with you. I hope you would consider my candidacy. I'm running to give people an option. The reality is that there are 2 good people running. Mr. Larimore Hall and I agree on many issues. What I bring is simply my own experience and my own perspective. And as a former legislator, I know how to get things through in very difficult structures with the odds against you. I've done that in San Francisco, and I know that I can do that for the state of California. At the end of the day, what I would say is that we need to empower central committees. If you are happy with the status quo, then you probably shouldn't vote for me, because I want to change things. I think that it is time for us to actually re-energize what's happening on the ground, because the grassroots in the end is what this party is about. That's what makes us Democrats. And I want to empower the grassroots. I have done that in San Francisco, and I know that I can do it in California. I hope you join this effort. We are at a critical juncture with COVID and everything that's happening. Thank you.
We want to thank you both for taking the time to join us today. We wish you both good luck on your campaigns. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Connolly. It is my honor now to introduce the candidates for CDP Female Vice Chair. I'm sure everyone knows Betty Yee and Jenny Bach. Here to ask the questions of them is the Vice Chair of the Riverside County Democratic Party, Aggie Kessler.
Are our candidates in the room?
Yes,
Yes. All right, let's go. Ms. Bach, you're finishing your first term as CDP Secretary. What are your accomplishments and why do you want to be Vice Chair? You have 1 minute. Please unmute yourself and begin.
Hi everyone in Riverside County Dems, and thank you so much, Aggie Kessler, for the question. As a direct product of this party's pipeline, having volunteered and being active with the California Young Democrats, I really hope I can continue my work with all of you. As a party officer, I've worked on trainings for our youngest activists, our high school Dems, organized on social justice issues, worked with our party on elections in and out of our state, like Arizona and Georgia, this past election cycle. I've also worked with community groups and activists who are not members of our committee, because I believe that it's important to engage with non-party insiders just as much as members of our party in order for us to evolve. So thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Yee, as California State Controllers, many ask, why are you running for party vice chair? What do you want to accomplish? And more importantly, if elected, will you serve out your full term? You have 1 minute.
Thank you, Aggie. Good afternoon, Riverside County Democrats. Thank you for the opportunity to be here. First and foremost, let me just clarify, this role of CDP Vice Chair is completely separate and apart from my service as California State Controller. There is no conflict in my serving in both. And what I'm doing in running for CDP Vice Chair is just elevating my activism in this California Democratic Party, where I've been active for the better part of 3 decades. I am running because I really believe the party and all of its actions need to be better aligned with the lived experiences of California. And this really has been informed by my work as your controller in terms of the growing inequality in California. And I do believe that as the largest Democratic Party in the United States, that this California Democratic Party has to be the standard bearer for economic and racial equity and justice.
Thank you. This question is for both of you. There are delegates who feel our party is broken and they want to have a voice in more decisions. How do you answer them, and what is your view on the health of our party? You have 2 minutes. Ms. Bach, you are first. You're not unmuted yet. Can you unmute yourself, Ms. Bach?
Yes, thank you so much. I'm sorry, may you repeat the question?
Of course I can. So there are many delegates who feel our party is broken and they want to have a voice in more decisions. How do you answer them, and what is your view on the health of our party?
Thank you, Aggie. Well, I agree with the delegates that we do have a broken communication system. I mean, we saw this in just the past ADEMS election, which was, imperfect. I'm not trying to point the blame on any of our leadership or our staff because they worked extremely hard to get it done. But in terms of communication, people didn't feel that they were updated or knew what was going on. I was getting questions at 1 a.m, sometimes beyond that, on trying to, just keep them updated on this. And that's just one example of, poor communication that can be avoided. So I think, as a party, we need to do better on keeping folks updated. We have to be transparent on processes. I get questions a lot too about party bylaws and procedure. And I do one of a few things. I either re-refer delegates to the appropriate staff member or leadership in our party, but I think we need to do a better job in making sure that our information and guidelines are more streamlined for folks to be able to understand. I also believe in empowering our groups on the ground and, in all parts of our party. And we need to, collaborate better with our caucus chairs. We need to collaborate better with our organizations and central committees on the ground. To answer your question, I do believe that we have to be more collaborative and have better communication when we talk to folks.
Thank you.
Thank you.
The same question, Ms. Yee.
Thank you, Aggie, for the question. So my view about the role of the state party is that we are a vehicle for all of you, for the county committees and the county parties. And in that vein, I would say that, in terms of communication, that we need to essentially employ all of our party leadership, from the officers to our regional directors to our county committee chairs, and be sure that we are having communications at every turn so that everyone is fully informed about all of our processes. And I will also say that, one of my goals as vice chair is to be sure that we have CDP presence, a state party presence on the ground year round, so that we're not just engaging at the time of elections, at the time of key critical issues, but that there is constant communication around issues, around elections, internally and externally, and also just around changes and major initiatives of the party as well. So the state party is a vehicle for all of you. And so to the extent that the communication has been broken, we need to do better, but I believe we have the infrastructure for that to improve.
Thank you. This question is also for both of you. What are your views on the CDP funding coordinated campaigns with county committees? Please address the issues of cost, manpower, and outcomes. Who's responsible for wins and losses? You each have 2 minutes. Ms. Yee, you are first this time.
Thank you, Aggie. So in terms of just the responsibility aspect of this question, first, let me just say, as an officer, any officer of the State Democratic Party, the first responsibility for all of us is to be sure that we are raising the funds necessary to win elections. Now, when I think about coordinated campaigns, how the state party gets informed about what are key races and what are key campaigns should really be communicated from all of you at the local level. And so again, we're your vehicle, but we want to be informed in terms of our funding decisions about where we've got some key races to really focus on. And at the same time, I want to know that this leadership team at the party is doing everything it can to raise the funds necessary. Look, as vice chair, we have the responsibility of not only maintaining the organization, but developing it. And I would say development includes the financial development as well. Oftentimes that gets short shrift, but that is the first and foremost responsibility of any officer of this party. And then to be sure we have the resources to really deploy for the priorities of all of you.
Thank you. What, if any, changes would you bring to your role, and how would you work with the incoming chair to make our party better, stronger, and more effective? And would your role change if the chair was a male or a female? Ms. Bach, you are first, and each of you have 2 minutes.
Thank you for your question. So, Duraka had mentioned it earlier, but per our bylaws right now, with our roles as a vice chair and the other officers other than the chair, they're not full-time paid positions, first of all, so they're volunteer positions. Also, the bylaws don't really say much about responsibility except for the vice chairs, helping carrying out the agenda for the chair. So I do believe that we need to have more responsibilities. We need to be able to be held accountable to carrying out, what we say we're going to do, right? And we're, in terms of making programs for the party and even further developing the party, we have to be able to have some sort of direction or guidelines to do so. So I do think that moving forward, we have to, do better in developing out those roles a bit more so that officers who are elected aren't just, sitting ducks or have a title, at the top part of our party. I also think that we need to really increase just more collaboration, as I mentioned earlier, and empower more leaders of our party in the decision-making process. This means that we take feedback from, not only central committees on the ground, but also Democratic clubs and also Democratic organizations who are chartered with our party to make it better. And earlier, I don't think I had the opportunity to answer the question on campaign finance, but all I would like to add to that is that we have to do better in building a framework for small dollar contributions so that we can move away from big money entities. And that's important because not only does, that is another funding mechanism for a party, but it also holds the party accountable to the people, especially non-party insiders outside of our body of about 3,500 people. We have to give people an incentive to be able to contribute. We need to have more feedback and know the priorities of local central committees on the ground in order to develop a stronger plan when we move forward on elections and campaigns. Thank you.
Your time is up. All right. Let's see. Ms. Yee.
Thank you, Aggie. So I'm just going to reiterate again, the role of the state party is to help win elections. And, for all of the duties that are attendant to that, it is really everything from raising the money to understanding the local priorities, to facilitate the communication, to have those communications be informed. And I'm going to go back to my first statement about why I'm running. I really do feel like the actions of this party have been misaligned with the lived experiences of Californians. So from that perspective, I do believe that our actions have to be informed again by all of you. And resources are important, and I do also advocate for a campaign finance reform. We'll continue to work on that, but resources also dictate the breadth of what we can take on as actions to help all of you. And so, I'm happy to assist the chair. Frankly, I'm not running to just sit in a position. I've got plans in terms of how to engage with our leadership, our regional directors, our county committees, particularly in red and purple parts of the state, where we need to grow Democrats. And I think we have every opportunity to do that if we have a year-round presence in those areas. And so I frankly have an agenda that I'm coming in with, and I do believe it will fit in with any chair, male or female, about what it means to continue to develop this organization and to grow it. And so, I'm just ready to get to work and to roll up my sleeves.
Great, thank you very much. And thank you very much for your answers. Please take a minute each for a closing statement. Ms. Bach, I'm going to ask you to go first, please.
Thank you, Aggie. So, I want to carry out programs and solutions for a party. There's so much to do. So, none of us can carry that all on our shoulders, but I really hope that in continuing my work and getting this opportunity to be your next vice chair, I hope that we can address and combat misinformation, really increase and strengthen our presence in communities, especially communities of color. We have to build the framework for small dollar contributions and address affordability. I think that's a huge issue with, Democrats and activists all over the state that, if they want to keep engaged, they shouldn't have to struggle doing that while paying their bills and rent. As a daughter of Vietnamese refugees, immigration is huge for me. I want to make sure that our undocumented immigrants also have a voice at the table and are included. And, lastly, I think we have to be more proactive in building the local bench. That is a big part of winning elections, and we need to get more of our youth and more of our leadership in building this party pipeline to elect folks like that. So thank you so much for the opportunity, and I look forward to speaking to all of you in the near future. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Yee, your closing statement, please.
Thank you very much, Aggie, and thank you, River County Democrats. I am really honored to be serving as your state controller, and prior to that, as a member of the Board of Equalization. And, in those roles, what I have learned in terms of the people I've represented is that, people share values, but they certainly don't share politics. And where I believe this party can make a difference is what we've seen happening across this nation with division. We certainly have divisions here in California as well, but we need to grow this party. It's what we're in the business of doing, and we need to win elections. And so I commit to be in particularly the red and purple parts of the state, but really to being sure that we have an on-the-ground presence in every part of our state. I believe also, and it's been affirmed, and just what we saw today with the acquittal of Trump, that that our democracy is very fragile. And I know for many of us, the images of January 6th will be etched in our minds forever. And for me, that says, those communities that were responsible for storming the Capitol are right here in our backyard. And so we need to be on the ground to call it out for what it is, to engage people on the issues, and to just talk about why this party can deliver benefits that will lift up all communities. So I'm happy to be a candidate, honored to be a candidate, and I look forward to your support. Thank you very much.
Thank you. So, Ms. Yee and Ms. Bach, thank you so much for joining us today. And from the Riverside County Democrats and all of our guests, I'd like to thank you for joining us and for sharing your thoughts with us. And we'd like to wish you both very good luck with your campaign. And now I'd like to take just a moment of personal privilege. I cannot help but be a little overwhelmed sitting here and thinking about the number of women of color that have spoken to us today and who are candidates for our great party here in California, for the largest state party in the United States. I am truly moved, and I think all of you should be. This is amazing. So all of you women who are running, this is amazing in our party. I'm moved. I'm going to go on to our final grouping. And at this time, it is my honor to introduce the candidates for the California Democratic Party chair. And I'm pretty sure that they need no introductions. Delane Easton and Rusty Hicks. I am assured they are in the room, Maya. Thank you. And here to ask the questions is my chair, the chair of the Riverside County Democratic Party, Tisa Rodriguez.
Thank you very much. I'd like to echo that. I'm really inspired. Seeing how far we've come and how far we have to go, and all of the young people at home watching all these great candidates is amazing. So our first question is going to go to Ms. Easton. Our question is, Ms. Easton, you have been out of public office for some time. What experience do you have to run the largest state Democratic Party in organizing, fundraising, and for moving forward? You have 2 minutes to respond to the question.
You need
Hold
to
on
unmute.
1 second. There you go. There you go.
It wouldn't let me unmute myself, so must be worried about me. I thank you very much, my friends in Riverside County, which I have visited many, many times. I have been to all 58 of California's counties. I have had a lot of experience. First, I was chair of the 18th Assembly District Committee long ago, so I've been in local Democratic politics. I was on the Alameda County Central Committee and spent many years on the State Central Committee. And then I ran a little department called the Department of Education, where I administered 43% of the state of California budget. So I knew a little something about management. Prior to that, I'd worked for one of the biggest companies in America, first in accounting and then in corporate planning. And I went back and ran the National Institute for School Leadership in Washington, D.C. and was a Mills College professor. My resume is very, very deep and long, and I do have a lot of experience managing large numbers of people, diverse leadership, and getting things done. You may not realize, but when I became superintendent of public instruction, by the way, the first and only woman to hold that position, only 3 women had been elected statewide before I was elected. And oh, by the way, we haven't had a woman party chair since 1985. So I really do believe that I'm actually very well equipped to do this work. I have managerial experience, I have budgetary experience, I have team building experience, as well as having the values that are at the core of who we are as the Democratic Party. My dad was a shop steward. My grandfather was a teamster when they drove teams of horses and belonged to the union before it was fashionable. And I was a CFT, a member of the California Federation of Teachers. And so I have the deepest and widest resume of a chair of this party in a long time. And I know how to do this. And just because I haven't been in public office in the last few years doesn't mean I don't know how to do this. So I will welcome any other questions you have about my qualifications, but you should know I'm the first in my family to go to college. I went to UC Davis and UC Santa Barbara for graduate school, and I have had a wonderful life because I had a wonderful education. I'm going to fight for those values when I'm chair of this party. The platform of this
Easton,
party
your
needs
time
to
is
be-
up.
Thank you.
Great, thank you. This next question is for Rusty Hicks. Mr. Hicks, you are seeking re-election, but many blame you for the loss of seats in the 2020 general election. Why do you deserve to lead the CDP for the next term? You have 2 minutes to respond.
There we go. I believe I'm unmuted. Thank you, Riverside County Democrats, for the opportunity to be with you this afternoon. Like in many things, I believe the chair of the largest state party in the country gets more credit and blame than they deserve. And so while we can have a conversation about who exactly is solely to blame for us coming up short in these races in 2020, I certainly take it personally. The question is, how do we move forward? I think first we have to do a data-driven, deep dive analysis as to what worked and what didn't. Let's look at each one of these seats. Let's look at the Harley-Ruta seat, for instance. 2018, Republican turnout was suppressed. 2018, there was a surge in Republican turnout in a Republican seat. Second, in 2018, Harley-Ruta won the API vote by 3,000 votes. In 2018, in 2020, he lost that same vote by 3,000 votes, a swing of 6,000 votes of the 8,000 votes he came up short in. So I think one is to do a real analysis of what happened in each seat. Two is to look at what redistricting brings us. I believe that some seats will get easier, some seats will get harder, but we'll have a clear sense of what our opportunities might be in 2022. And third, we can't wait until 2022 to start organizing. You don't win an election 2 months before election day, you
Norma
win it 2
Alcala,
years
join the meeting.
before election day. And so we've got to be about doing that work. Today, I'm proud to say that I have the support of Christy Smith, Gil Cisneros, TJ Cox, Harley-Ruta, and 10 of the 11 congressional great Americans in my campaign for re-election as chair. I believe that speaks to the investment that we made in those races and their confidence in my leadership to take those seats back in 2022.
Great, thank you very much. The next question is for Ms. Easton. Ms. Easton, during other forums, you have spoken about Chair Hicks taking dirty money. Please be specific and define what dirty money means to you. And second, what source of funds would you raise instead of that money? Thank you.
The party voted to not accept fossil fuel money. The chairman said in a 2019 questionnaire he filled out that he would abide by the party's wish. And then he turned around and took money from a fossil fuel industry. It was a gas industry, but it's still fossil fuel. And the reality was it was a big amount of money. And so here we go. We need to have, if we'd had a more nimble and thoughtful fundraising, we would have gotten a lot more little donations from conservationists and people who believe in who we are and what we do. The fact is that we shouldn't have taken that money. And time and again, we're going to be challenged in the future. And I say to all of you, we have to have a much more nimble approach to fundraising, lots more boots on the ground to do fundraising. The chair was fundraising for out-of-state races, said it would be good for California to be more visible in out-of-state races during the last election when we lost 4 congressional seats. And so charity begins at home, I was taught. And I think we need to focus on the races here in California before we start doing fundraising and phone banking out of state. The exception, of course, is something like Georgia. But everybody understands that there were no California races on at that time. And the future of the Republic was on this line. But again, we have to be much better about not winka telling you what you want to hear and then turning around and going along with the vaping industry and others who are not in the best interests of the values of this party.
Did you want to answer the second part too?
Second
Yes?
part
Okay.
was,
What would you replace it with?
oh, I would replace
What's
it
your
with
plan?
much more widespread fundraising throughout the state of all kinds of people and all kinds of entities. We don't have to go to fossil fuel companies. We don't have to go to big greedy corporations like the tobacco industry to raise money. We need to do much more, though, in the way of grassroots broad fundraising. So I would build much stronger relationships with local organizations, with our caucuses and our counties, and we would raise money much more the old-fashioned way. And I've proven that you can, in fact, raise a lot of money by accepting small donation from lots of people. And I did that.
Thank you.
Okay. All right, thank you. Okay, so similar question for Mr. Hicks. There has been a much talk about under your leadership that the CDP has accepted almost $500,000 of oil money in direct opposite to the CDP policy. First, please explain this. And then second, if you're reelected, what kind of money would the CDP accept and how would you make sure operations stay funded? 2 minutes.
Well, thank you for the question. First, the last contribution from an oil company that the California Democratic Party took was in 2016. So just because you say it time and time again doesn't actually make it true. 2, as a candidate for chair in 2019, I signed the No Fossil Fuel Money Pledge for any campaign that I was involved in. I did not, have not, and will not take money from the fossil fuel industry for any campaign that I'm involved with. 3, as the chair of the party, I initiated a process, which is, I believe, is what is being referred to look at how we would get rid of all of the money that we did not want within the party. The party has had 3 historic categories that were banned industries: tobacco, gun manufacturing, and oil. Those have remained in place, and the task force called for a continuation of those banned contributions. And the committee called for adding 4 additional industries: for-profit prisons, for-profit colleges, for-profit healthcare, and the payday loan industry. Today, in the last 12 months, we have went from 3 banned industries to 7, and 2, established a process by which we would eliminate further contributions in the future in connection with our budget, our program, and the diversification of our resources. And lastly, we've invested in the small dollar donor infrastructure of our party. Historically, our party has only raised 5% of its total fundraising from small dollar donor contributions. In 2020, that was 17%, and we are on track to be at a 50-50 split within 4 to 5 years. We raised $2 million in 2020. My hope is to raise $3 million in 22. That's how we eliminate money we don't want from the party.
All right, thank you. This next question is for both candidates. The 8M elections have brought with them many opinions, comments, and accusations. This is an opportunity for both of you to comment on what happened and how you would address it. 2 minutes each. Ms. Easton, you're first.
I need to correct something. Mr. Hicks said he took no fossil fuel money. He took over $400,000 from Sempra Industries. They are not an oil company, but they are a gas company. And he took the money after saying he would not. And now he was just told you a bald-faced lie. Do the research. He took the money. So forgive me, but I'm tired of hearing lack of honesty and not fessing up. Now, sorry, tell me again what the question is.
You're using your time on your ADEM question, madam.
Yeah, ADEM. Okay, the ADEM elections were a disaster. There were a bunch of people that looked at the outcomes at 6 o'clock, and then they saw some different outcomes at 10:30. And then the next day there were some different outcomes. The fact of the matter is this was poorly managed, and that is not on the staff of the Democratic Party. They are not the leadership. It is the leadership that is supposed to design a process that is transparent and that is accurate. I know many people that asked for ballots that didn't get them, and I know people that got ballots that hadn't asked for them. So the truth, and everybody on this call knows this happened. So let's be honest with one another. Leadership and management go together in a well-managed organization. You need to have a series of task forces that in fact redesign the way we're doing things. There's too many people going in the back room, just a couple or three leaders going in the back room and making decisions that are not in the interest of Riverside County or in the interest of any of the other 57 counties or in the interest of the state of California Democratic Party. We have got to open up this process. And if we don't become more transparent and more honest and open, we're going to lose the young people who are in record numbers. Many of them are declaring themselves to be no party preference because they don't trust us.
Thank you.
All right, Mr. Hicks, you're next.
Well, first, I certainly acknowledge and recognize the anxiety, the collective anxiety that we have felt with this current ADEMS process. I've felt no shortage of it myself, so I can certainly identify with candidates and voters alike in that respect. We brought together a task force in late 2019 and into 2020 to review the 2019 process and make changes and reform that process. We then came forward in November of 2020 and put forward a proposal to have a modified ADEMS process based upon the surge in the pandemic. Ultimately, the executive board voted to have an all vote by mail, no in-person voting process. The result of that was over the course of 10 weeks, the California Democratic Party became a mid-size county registrar's office, mailing out 169,000 ballots, ultimately seeing 60,000 of those cast, responding to more than 9,000 inquiries over the course of that 10 weeks. I certainly recognize that there were issues with that process. First, a reliance upon the United States Postal Service, which has experienced some real challenges over the last 4 years. But we sought to pay first-class postage out, first-class postage back, red tag political mail, coordination with the Postal Service throughout the process. Two, the timelines were incredibly tight. We extended once in connection with the executive board, we extended again with the statewide officers. And three, with regards to the results, I acknowledge that there were inaccuracies in what was initially put forward. We sought to correct that within the course of, I believe it was 3 hours. And as of today, all of the ballot scans are up. If you want to take a look at them yourself, they are there. I believe that's the way we have to, and I've committed to ensuring that we review this process before the virtual convention at the end of April.
Mr. Hicks, your time is up.
Okay, thank you very much. So this next question is also for both of you. What are your views on the CDP funding coordinated campaigns with county committees? Please address issues of cost, manpower, and outcomes. Who is responsible for wins and losses? And you each have 2 minutes. Ms. Easton, please.
Well, I do believe that there's a lot more room for collaboration between the Democratic Party of California and our individual counties, as well as our various caucuses, as well as our AD committees. The reality is that this is a big state and there's so much more economy of scale if the party gets more nimble about creating teams of people that can go out and help with training and help prepare people to run races. The party, though, also ought to be more involved with local elections that are city and county and school district and county boards of ed and water districts. That's really where we train the bench, where we get people who develop skills and credibility and understanding about the issues at hand. I think local government is an amazingly important part of government. And just because we have nonpartisan local elections in the state of California does not mean that the state party should not be engaged with local parties in getting ready for those elections. And I think the party needs to do a lot more of that. The party also needs to raise more money. The fact that we really sent out a very scant amount of money last time, and a lot of it did not make its way to rural counties or rural parts of even urban counties. The fact is we have an opportunity here to do ever so much more to engage and involve people in, yes, these local elections, and yes, getting ready for the real assembly and Senate races and congressional races that are coming. But let me just also say, we got to make sure we got real Democrats, not dinos, not people that tell you they're Democrats because they can count and they've decided they have to be a Democrat to win. You know, this whole recall of the governor, which is outrageous and phony, is done because the Republicans have figured out they can't win a governor's race in the normal way. They have to go to the recall. And so the party ought to be playing a much bigger role in absolutely resisting and criticizing this recall effort. The governor's done nothing.
Thank you.
Recalled.
Thank you. Mr. Hicks?
Well, I believe in statewide coordinated campaigns that engage county committees, Democratic clubs, resistance groups, and others. Our party is only as strong as we are at the grassroots level. And that's why I was proud to initiate the party's first statewide coordinated campaign that it's had in the better part of 20 years. It's the reason why we raised and spent nearly $5 million, putting 25 organizers across the state in 14 battleground offices across 12 districts. And 3 months later, we're nimble enough to turn that into a 58 county strategy, focusing with a virtual campaign. That's the reason why we were able to engage 57,000 volunteers, nearly 2,500 of those right there in Riverside County, where you had an office, you had organizing support, you had tools and resources to do work at the state, the federal, and the local level. That's why we picked up 60 assembly seats. That's why we picked up 2 additional state Senate seats. That's why we won nearly 53% of the local government seats that were up in November of 2020. It's why our party is growing, adding more than 1.4 million new Democrats in the last year and a half alone. And it's the reason why I believe that we have to do that work on a year-round basis. You know, a coordinated campaign shouldn't just be 3 months before election day, or frankly, even 12 months before election day. You know, the day after election day means it's 2 years before the first day of the next election. And so I hope that we can do this work on a year-round basis, and that's why I'm committed to investing it, standing up an organizing department within the party, and supporting county committees and clubs on a year-round basis.
Great. Thank you very much. Now we're going to go to closing statements. You will each have 2 minutes to make a closing statement. I'm going to ask Ms. Easton to please go first. You have 2 minutes, and then Mr. Hicks, you are next.
Well, my thanks to Riverside County Democrats for inviting me here today. I look so forward to seeing you in person again once this wretched pandemic is over. I'm running to be the chair of the California Democratic Party because we can and we must do better. I want to bring inspiration back to our party. I want to unite in common purpose to win back the congressional seats we lost in November, yes, but also to win those propositions that we lost and to get much more nimble about identifying, training, and supporting the next generation of Democrats up and down the ballot who will champion our platform at every level of public office, and that'll make sure that our party is an organizing force for policies we've long believed in and which are more important than ever to become reality. After the November election, engaged Democrats called me and asked me to run. They were very concerned that even in the face of the big win for our wonderful Biden-Harris team, that we'd suffered those major losses in congressional seats and state propositions, that we needed to provide more and better resources and support up and down the ticket. So when I'm chair, we will stand for what our platform says we stand for, fighting to uplift the working class and empowering historically marginalized communities. We will be the party of Medicare for all, clean money and campaign finance reform, housing justice, true environmental justice, including the Green New Deal, Black Lives Matter, immigration rights, and social justice. And of course, we'll make education and child development the state priority, just as our state constitution says that it should be. I'm not running to be the dictator of the party. I'm not running to be the head boss of the party. I'm running to be the organizer in chief, to create strong task forces that will work together to transform this party, to be prepared to do the really important work that will inspire the young and the old and everybody in between. Let's get together and make things happen in Riverside and everywhere else. Thank you all for your wonderful leadership and for putting this debate on today. It was very informative. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you very much, Mr. Hicks.
Well, first of all, thank you to Riverside County Democrats and you, Madam Chair, for giving us the opportunity to speak with those that are here and those that are watching today. I have been proud to be in the trenches, shoulder to shoulder with each and every one of you for the past 18 months. I often kiddingly say it feels like it's been 18 years because we've squeezed a lot into the last 18 months, but I'm incredibly proud of the work that we've been able to do together. When I stepped into this role and was elected to this role in June of 2019, our party was in an incredibly challenged position. We together brought a real cultural change to our party, work that we continue even today. We also then turned to the work of the 2020 coordinated campaign, funded through small dollar donor contributions. I think we've got a great foundation upon which we can continue to build. It's not enough to have an important plank in a platform or pass a resolution or make a nice statement. We have to be organizing on a year-round basis to see that platform, those resolutions, and those statements come to life. And that's why I believe that we need to do the work of the 2020 coordinated campaign on a year-round basis. That's why we're standing up an organizing department within the party. That's why we're supporting county committees and clubs with the same types of tools that we had in 2020. Two is we've got to continue to invest in our communications infrastructure, our training infrastructure, to recruit and train the next generation of public servants and grassroots leaders, to continue to invest in that small dollar donor contribution fundraising infrastructure. And lastly is to continue the cultural change that we started in 2019 that ensures that every person is seen, every voice is heard, and every Democrat has a seat at the table. I'd be honored to have your vote and have your support, and I look forward to the continued conversation with all of you in the coming weeks and months. We'll include in the chat some information about how you can connect with the campaign, and thank you again for the opportunity. Thanks so much.
Great. this concludes our program. Thank you everyone for coming and for participating with us. We hope you have all enjoyed, everyone at home, seeing the program, and I hope that you all enjoyed the questions and the comments. One of the fabulous things I'd like to call attention to as we end is that we've had presidents from our incredible Democratic clubs. We have so many more all around the county. If you would like to be more involved in the grassroots level of this party, engage with us, engage with our incredible clubs, take a look and engage with the incredible people who are running for office and who run our party, and just stay involved, because it takes all kinds and we need every single one of you to stay involved. With that, stay safe, stay sane, and thank God we have a new president. Good night.